I've always wanted to put these half-broken mice to better use, so here's the plan. I'm gonna somehow turn my RC car into a video game using just these sensors. Here's how it went. First, I need to track the car's position. Drones use something like this, with towers in the corners that act as fixed reference points. But this is just the car. It can't fly, so it should be easier. In fact, I'm just gonna use a mouse. All it needs is an optical sensor to map my hand location to the screen. So if I attach it to the car, it should be able to map the car's location to the screen just as easily. Here, I found an amazing spot to attach the mouse cage. So it's gonna go like this, and I found these long screws that I scavenged from a different part of the car, somewhere up there. So I'm gonna take them, put them through here, and then screw it on like that. And now it's time to test it. And immediately, it just doesn't work. The mouse moves up and down, but it's not drawing out the actual shapes and curves that I'm making with my car. So the test failed, but there's a good reason why. When attached to the car, the mouse always faces forward. It never detects any side-to-side motion, because it always faces in the direction of motion. When a human uses the mouse, on the other hand, we keep the direction the mouse is facing consistent. So moving it left and right actually moves it left and right. So at this point, I had three options. Build a system that keeps the mouse direction independent of the cars with some sensors and a servo. Quit, or just add a second mouse. And of course, I chose the dumbest option. So as it is, one mouse basically acts as a speedometer. But when I add a second mouse, also attached to the car, but not directly behind it, I can use something called differential drive odometer. Think about it like this. When a car turns, it does so around an instantaneous center of rotation. Parts of the car that are further from the center of rotation travel more distance. So if we have one mouse here and one mouse there, and take the difference between the distances traveled by each mouse, I should be able to figure out how sharply the car is turning and how much. With that plan in mind, I made a sort of kinematic model. So here's mouse 1, which is offset A units back from the center of the rear axle, and here's mouse 2, which is offset B units left of mouse 1. They each travel some distance, d1 and d2, around the center of rotation in some time or a single game tick, for example. And based off of those distances, I can figure out how far away the center of rotation is from the center of the rear axle, and how far around the circle the car has traveled. And finally, I did some math to solve for the radius in degrees so that I could implement it into code later. For the first sensor, I'm just going to leave the mouse as it was. But I can't just use a second mouse because Windows can't really separate two mouse signals. I couldn't get it to work. So instead, the second sensor is going to be the scroll wheel, which measures distance as it rolls along the ground. So the mouse gives me D1 and the scroll wheel gives me D2. So I 3D printed this flimsy connector thing to keep it all together. And with that, the hardware was all done. I made a project in Unity and wrote the code based off of my math. It runs a loop every tick, takes the data and tries to move the card on the screen to where it's supposed to be. Something like that. There's just one problem. The scroll wheel is really inaccurate, especially at high speeds. I ran some tests by rolling the car 1 meter in a straight line. The mouse was pretty consistent at all speeds, but the scroll wheel started slipping. It thought the car only traveled 40 centimeters when it actually went 100. I couldn't come up with a good solution, so I just limited the car's speed by hot gluing a pencil to the trigger. And then I added some weight to increase traction. And all that was left was to make a virtual track for my car to race around. I had some fun making the pixel art, and then I used a tile map to draw out the road in Unity. The lap went pretty well. I finished just about where I started, just rotated 90 degrees. The room is just a bit too small.